Devils are embodiments of tyranny, hailing from the 9 hells of Bator. Led by Asmodeus, they seek to dominate the cosmos. They are masters of manipulation, delighting in the oppression of the weak. Devils are born from the corrupted souls of mortals in the 9 hells. Asmodeus, their supreme ruler, aims to expand his infernal army by corrupting mortal souls through manipulation. Devils thrive in a hierarchical society where obedience and ambition are valued. They obey their superiors while secretly harboring ambitions to climb the ranks, especially among archdevils ruling the 9 hells. Devils make sinister bargains with mortals, offering power or boons in exchange for their souls. Breaking such contracts results in instant soul forfeiture to the 9 hells. The 9 hells has a strict hierarchy, with Asmodeus as the supreme ruler. Archdevils, greater devils, and lesser devils serve him. Promotion and demotion in the hierarchy are based on merit or need, while failed devils face demotion to Lemure status. The 9 hells consist of 9 layers, each ruled by an archdevil. To reach the deepest layer, one must descend through all 8 above it. The river Styx provides a perilous shortcut, but the journey is fraught with torment and horror. Barbed Devils, known as Hamatula, are greedy and combative guardians in the 9 hells. They resemble tall, humanoid figures covered in sharp barbs, ever vigilant for valuables. Their sharp claws and fire-hurling abilities make them formidable foes. Bearded Devils, or Barbazu, serve as shock troops and thrive in battle. These fiends appear as humanoids with scaly skin, pointed ears, and poisonous beards. They wield deadly saw-toothed glaives. Bone Devils, called Oseluth, are cruel taskmasters in the 9 hells. They despise their superiors but seek promotion eagerly. They have skeletal frames, scorpion-like tails, and venomous tails, wielding bone polearms. Chain Devils, known as Chiton, are sadistic jailers and torturers. They animate chains on their bodies and nearby ones, using them to eviscerate enemies. Their gaze can command lesser creatures. Erinyes are beautiful and disciplined warriors. They resemble humanoids with feathery wings and wear stylized armor. They serve as swift executioners of those who defy Asmodeus or wrong their masters. Horned Devils, or Malebranche, are lazy and reluctant to engage in conflict. They stand as tall as ogres, possess wings, and use forked tails and horns in battle. Ice Devils, also called Gelagon, are found in cold hell layers and serve as commanders in infernal armies. They have insect-like appearances with clawed limbs and barbed spears. Imps are mischievous fiends that run errands, spy on rivals, and mislead mortals. They can assume animal forms and have red skin, barbed tails, small horns, and wings. They strike while invisible and use poison stingers. Lemures are shapeless, repugnant creatures formed from twisted mortal souls. They resemble molten flesh with vaguely humanoid features, expressing eternal anguish. Pit fiends are the lords of other devils, serving the archdukes and archduchesses of the 9 hells. They are hulking monsters with whip-like tails, wings, and armored scales. They are fearless in battle and supremely arrogant. Spined devils, known as Spinagon, serve as messengers and spies. They have spiny bodies and tails, which they can fling as ranged weapons, bursting into flames on impact. Despite their weaknesses, they are respected in the 9 hells for their role as eyes and ears of the infernal realm. Dinosaurs, or behemoths, are ancient reptiles with a long history on our planet. Among them, predatory dinosaurs are known for their savage and territorial nature. They are fierce hunters, often on the prowl for potential prey. Herbivorous dinosaurs, on the other hand, are generally less aggressive, but they can become hostile when defending their young or when startled or harassed. These creatures come in a variety of sizes and shapes. Larger dinosaurs tend to have more subdued coloration, while smaller ones might have colorful markings, similar to modern birds. Dinosaurs are commonly found in remote and rugged areas that are seldom visited by humanoids. The creature known as the Displacer Beast earns its name from its remarkable ability to distort light, making it appear as though it stands a few feet away from its true position. This menacing predator resembles a sleek, feline-like creature covered in dark blue-black fur. However, its unearthly nature becomes apparent when you notice its 6 legs and 2 tentacles extending from its shoulders, each ending with spiked pads. Even in death, the malevolent gleam in its eyes persists. Originating from the Feywild, Displacer Beasts once roamed the Twilight Realms. They were captured and trained by the Unseelie Court, who selectively bred them to enhance their predatory instincts. These creatures were used to hunt unicorns, pegasi, and other fantastical creatures. Yet, the Displacer Beasts' cunning eventually led to their escape from their captors. Upon their release, these predators thrived in the Feywild, where they came into conflict with the Seelie Court and their loyal Blinkdog companions. This rivalry drove the Displacer Beasts to the fringes of the Feywild, many of which crossed over to the material plane. To this day, Displacer Beasts and Blinkdogs are natural enemies, attacking each other on sight. Displacer Beasts are not just hunters for sustenance, they often kill for sheer enjoyment. They don't limit themselves to attacking only when hungry, sometimes toying with their prey for entertainment until they decide to feast. After dispatching their victim with their tentacles, Displacer Beasts drag the corpse to a secluded spot for undisturbed feeding. These creatures are solitary hunters, or part of small prides that excel at setting ambushes. A typical tactic involves one Displacer Beast striking and retreating, drawing its prey into a wooded area where its packmates lie in wait. Along trade routes, Displacer Beast packs carefully observe the schedules of caravans, setting up ambushes to target them. Intelligent, malevolent beings often keep Displacer Beasts as pets or guardians, but forming an alliance with one requires a mutually beneficial arrangement. These creatures might serve as vault guardians or bodyguards for prominent individuals, but they are not easily controlled. Doppelgangers are crafty shapeshifters capable of assuming the appearance of other humanoids, using this skill for deception, evasion, or luring unsuspecting victims. These elusive creatures excel at sowing fear, suspicion, and confusion, and they can be found across various lands and cultures. With their ability to mimic individuals of any race, doppelgangers are adept at adopting any guise they choose. To infiltrate and deceive, a doppelganger's shapeshifting is not just about appearance. It doesn't provide them with languages, mannerisms, memories, or personality traits. Instead, doppelgangers often track or capture the individuals they intend to impersonate, meticulously studying them and delving into their thoughts to uncover their secrets. By reading surface thoughts, they can learn the target's name, desires, fears, and fragments of their memories. In cases where they are involved in long-term schemes, doppelgangers keep their captives close, probing their minds regularly to refine their impersonation skills. Doppelgangers operate individually or in small groups, adapting their roles as needed. One member might take the place of a murdered merchant or noble, while others assume various identities, playing the roles of family members or servants to enjoy the wealth of their victims. These shapeshifters are not known for their parenting skills. Rather than raising their young, doppelgangers take on handsome male forms and seduce women, leaving them to raise the resulting offspring. These doppelganger children appear as ordinary members of their mother's species until they reach adolescence. At that point, they discover their true nature and are driven to seek out their kind to join them in the world. Dracoliches are a peculiar and unsettling transformation that some dragons choose when facing the inevitability of death. Despite their immense lifespans, dragons, like all creatures, eventually meet their end. For certain dragons, this unsettling notion drives them to embrace the dark path of necromantic energy and ancient rituals, willingly transforming themselves into Dracoliches. This transformation comes at a significant cost, severing all ties to their draconic kin and the dragon gods. Upon undergoing this sinister transformation, a Dracolich retains its original size and shape, but its physical form changes dramatically. Its skin and scales either tighten around its bones or slough away entirely, leaving behind a skeletal frame. The Dracolich's eyes become eerie, glowing points of light that hover within shadowy sockets, offering a glimpse into the malevolence of its undead consciousness. While many dragons harbor ambitions of destruction and dominance, Dracoliches take their malevolence to even greater heights. These creatures are driven by an insatiable desire to rule over all, and their intelligence is fiendishly cunning. They construct intricate webs of nefarious schemes, drawing in servants motivated by greed and an unquenchable thirst for power. Operating from the shadows, Dracoliches are adept at plotting to keep their undead existence a well-guarded secret, making them formidable adversaries for those who cross their path. The creation of a Dracolich involves a complex and dark ritual that requires the cooperation of the dragon and a group of mages or cultists. During the ritual, the dragon consumes a toxic brew that swiftly ends its life. The spellcasters involved then capture the dragon's spirit and transfer it into a specially prepared gemstone, which functions similarly to a lich's phylactery. As the dragon's flesh decays, its spirit animates its skeletal remains. If a Dracolich's physical form is ever destroyed, its spirit returns to the gemstone as long as both are on the same plane of existence. Should the gemstone come into contact with the corpse of another dragon, the Dracolich's spirit can take possession of that body, effectively transforming it into a new Dracolich. However, if the gemstone is transported to another plane, the Dracolich's spirit has no vessel to return to upon the destruction of its undead body, ultimately passing into the afterlife. Dragons, winged reptiles of ancient lineage and fearsome power, are creatures known and feared for their predatory cunning and greed. Among the most powerful creatures in the world, dragons possess innate magical abilities, including their dreaded breath weapons. True dragons are divided into two broad categories, chromatic and metallic. The former includes black, blue, green, red, and white dragons, selfish, evil, and universally feared. The latter consists of brass, bronze, copper, gold, and silver dragons, noble, good, and highly respected beings. All true dragons share an insatiable covetousness for wealth. They amass mounds of coins, gems, jewels, and magic items in their hoards, seldom venturing far from their lairs, which they only leave to patrol or feed. The life of a true dragon comprises 4 stages: wormling, young, adult, and ancient, with the potential for unrivaled might and incalculable wealth as they age. Chromatic dragons, such as black, blue, green, red, and white dragons, represent the malevolent side of dragonkind. These creatures are driven by greed, believing that the world's wealth rightfully belongs to them. They seize treasure without remorse and amass it simply for the sake of possession. Chromatic dragons are characterized by their towering ego, seeing themselves as the supreme beings among mortals. They interact with other creatures solely for personal gain, considering humanoids beneath them and unworthy of respect. A dragon's lair is both a seat of power and a treasure vault. These cunning creatures select or construct lairs not for shelter, but for defense, favoring multiple entrances, exits, and security measures. Most chromatic dragon lairs are hidden in remote and perilous locations to deter intruders. They bolster their natural defenses with magical guardians, traps, and servants. The Dragon Queen is the chief deity of evil dragonkind, residing in the 9 hells. With 5 heads representing the chromatic dragons, Tiamat epitomizes their avarice. She is capable of unleashing destruction on a grand scale, wielding 5 breath weapons, formidable spellcasting, and fearsome claws. Tiamat's greatest adversaries are Bahamut, the Platinum Dragon, and Asmodeus, who has long curtailed her power and ambitions. The Black Dragon, one of the most malevolent of chromatic dragons, delights in the downfall of civilizations and collects the spoils of fallen peoples. These dragons prefer fetid swamps and crumbling ruins as their homes. Black dragons have a skull-like face with deep-set eyes and broad nasal openings. Their curved, bone-colored horns darken to black at the tips as they age. The flesh around their horns and cheekbones deteriorates, leaving a skeletal appearance. They have spiked heads and flat, forked-tipped tongues that drool acidic slime, adding to their foul odor. Hatchling black dragons have glossy black scales, which become thicker and duller with age, aiding their camouflage in swampy environments. Known for their sadistic nature, black dragons derive pleasure from watching their prey beg for mercy. They often offer false hope before delivering a brutal end. These dragons prioritize eliminating weak foes first, bolstering their ego and instilling fear in the survivors. When facing defeat, a black dragon fights fiercely or accepts death rather than yielding to another creature's mastery. They despise and fear other dragons, often spying on rivals and avoiding confrontations with stronger ones. Black dragons are served by evil lizard folk who provide tribute and build draconic effigies. They may inadvertently summon evil shambling mounds to guard their lairs. Kobolds infesting their lairs become as cruel as their masters, torturing captives before delivering them as offerings. These dragons hoard treasures and magical items from crumbled empires and conquered kingdoms to affirm their greatness, believing the wealth of current civilizations rightfully belongs to them. Black dragons inhabit swamps on civilizations' fringes, dwelling in dismal caves or ruins partially flooded. Their lairs contain pools for resting and tormenting victims, with piles of acid-pitted bones and fly-ridden carcasses. Centipedes, scorpions, and snakes infest the lair, enveloped in the stench of decay. The blue dragon is a vain and territorial creature that soars through desert skies, preying on caravans and plundering settlements beyond the arid expanse. These dragons can also be found in dry steppes, searing badlands, and rocky coasts, guarding their territories with a particular animosity toward brass dragons. Distinguished by its frilled ears, ridged horn, and rows of spikes extending from its nostrils to its lower jaw, a blue dragon's scales range from iridescent azure to deep indigo, polished by the desert sands. As they age, their scales thicken and harden, and their hide crackles with static electricity, intensifying when they're provoked, emitting an odor of ozone and dusty air. Blue dragons are both deadly and proud, taking great pleasure in demonstrating their superiority over humanoids and lesser creatures. In combat, they are patient and methodical, often turning battles into prolonged engagements, attacking from a distance with lightning volleys, then retreating out of harm's reach to strike again. Although they occasionally consume desert plants, blue dragons are primarily carnivores, preferring to feast on herd animals, electrocuting their prey with their lightning breath before indulging. This makes them a significant threat to desert caravans and nomadic tribes, viewed as convenient sources of food and treasure. When hunting, blue dragons bury themselves in the desert sand, leaving only their horn exposed, resembling a stone outcropping. When prey approaches, they burst from the sand like an avalanche, attacking their unsuspecting victims. Blue dragons value talented and valuable creatures that reinforce their sense of superiority, including bards, sages, artists, wizards, and assassins. These individuals can become valuable agents for the dragon, receiving handsome rewards for their loyalty. Blue dragons are secretive about their lairs, well protected and hidden. They encourage desert-dwelling creatures like ankhegs and giant scorpions to provide additional security. Some even attract air elementals and other beings to serve them. Known for their love of gems, especially sapphires, blue dragons collect these treasures along with other valuable items. They bury their most precious possessions deep in the sand, scattering less valuable items in plain sight over hidden sinkholes to deter would-be thieves. Blue dragons establish their lairs in barren places, using their lightning breath and burrowing ability to carve crystalline caverns beneath the sands. Legendary blue dragons' lairs are surrounded by thunderstorms, with ventilated tunnels lined with glassy sand to avoid deadly sinkholes. If their lair is invaded, blue dragons collapse the caverns, leaving intruders crushed and suffocated. Upon their return, they collect both their possessions and the wealth of the fallen invaders. The red dragon is the most covetous among true dragons, ceaselessly driven to amass greater treasure hoards. Exceptionally vain, their arrogance is evident in their proud demeanor and disdain for other creatures. A red dragon is characterized by a distinctive appearance, including swept-back horns, a spinal frill, and a beaked snout that continually emits smoke. Their eyes blaze with flames when angry, and they possess the longest wings of all chromatic dragons, featuring a blue-black tint along the trailing edge. The scales of a red dragon wormling are bright scarlet, growing duller and stronger as they age, resembling metallic armor. Their pupils fade, and the oldest red dragons have eyes akin to molten lava orbs. Red dragons favor mountainous terrains, badlands, and high perches to oversee their domains, often clashing with hill-dwelling copper dragons. Known for their ferocious and vengeful nature, red dragons are considered the archetypical evil dragons in many cultures. Their arrogance knows no bounds, viewing themselves as kings and emperors chosen by Tiamat to rule. They assert dominion over the world and all its inhabitants. Red dragons are territorial and isolationist, but yearn for knowledge of the wider world. They employ lesser creatures as informants, messengers, and spies, with a particular interest in news about other red dragons to maintain their status. When they require servants, they demand fealty from chaotic, evil humanoids, often asserting their lordship by force if needed. These dragons obsessively collect wealth, valuing anything of monetary worth. They can assess an item's value with remarkable precision and exhibit treasures taken from defeated foes to assert dominance. Red dragons meticulously track their hoards, noticing the absence of a single coin and pursuing thieves relentlessly, even resorting to destructive rampages if necessary. Red dragons make their lairs in high mountains or hills, dwelling in caverns beneath snow-capped peaks or within abandoned mines and dwarven strongholds. They prize caves with volcanic or geothermal activity, using the hazardous conditions to hinder intruders and endure searing heat and volcanic gases. While their hordes remain well guarded within the lair, red dragons spend significant time outside the mountain, using the heights to survey their domain and the world they aim to control. Servants erect monuments throughout the lair, depicting the dragon's power, its defeated enemies, and the nations it has conquered, serving as a testament to its dominance. The green dragon is known for its cunning and treacherous nature. It often employs misdirection and trickery to gain the upper hand in conflicts. These dragons are not only nasty-tempered, but also thoroughly evil, delighting in corrupting the good-hearted. In the ancient forests they inhabit, their aggression is more about gaining power and wealth with minimal effort than territorial dominance. You can recognize a green dragon by its distinctive features, including its curved jawline, crest starting near the eyes and running down its spine, and leathery spiked plates along its neck. Their scales darken as wormlings but grow larger and lighter with age, blending into forest surroundings. Long legs and necks enable them to navigate through dense underbrush and peer over trees. Green dragons are capricious hunters, patrolling their forest territory from the air and ground. They eat various creatures, including shrubs and small trees when hungry, but they favor elves as their preferred prey. These dragons are skilled liars and manipulators, using intimidation for lesser creatures and subtler methods when dealing with other dragons. They attack without provocation, especially when their territory is threatened. Their approach to sentient creatures is marked by a lust for power, and they are always on the lookout for creatures that can further their ambitions. Green dragons stalk victims, sometimes shadowing them for days, savoring the fear they evoke before attacking. They prefer intimidation over outright slaughter, establishing control over survivors and using them for information or ransom. Green dragons are manipulative schemers, bending other creatures to their will by assessing and exploiting their deepest desires. They pretend to serve but constantly assess their would-be masters. When dealing with their own kind, they are crude and rude, especially among dragons of the same age and status. Conflict arises when green dragons compete for forest territory with other dragon types. They may pretend to back down only to wait for an opportunity to eliminate their rivals and claim their lairs. Green dragons also accept the servitude of various sentient creatures, including goblinoids, ettercaps, ettins, kobolds, orcs, and yuan-ti. Corrupting and bending elves to their will is another delight for them. In terms of treasures, green dragons value sentient creatures they control, including heroes, sages, and bards. They also prefer emeralds, wood carvings, musical instruments, and sculptures of humanoid subjects. Green dragon lairs are unmistakable. Perpetual fog hangs in the air, carrying the acrid scent of their poison breath. Moss-covered trees grow closely together, forming winding pathways into the forest heart. Light takes on an emerald hue, and sounds seem muffled. The lair itself is typically a concealed cave in a cliff, hillside, or behind waterfalls. Some lairs are partly submerged and accessed through lakes or streams, while others are hidden by vegetation. White dragons, the smallest and most animalistic among chromatic dragons, thrive in frigid environments, favoring Arctic regions and icy mountains. These vicious and greedy creatures lack the cunning and tactics of their kin, but excel as hunters, focus solely on survival and killing their enemies. Their appearance features feral eyes, a sleek profile, and a spined crest. The scales of wormling white dragons shine pure white but become mottled with pale blue and light gray as they age, aiding their camouflage in icy terrains and cloudy skies. White dragons are primal and vengeful, with an insatiable hunger for frozen food. They devour creatures killed by their breath weapon while they are still frozen, encasing other kills in ice or snow near their lairs. They keep the bodies of their greatest enemies as trophies, often positioning the remains of giants, reamer hazes, or other dragons prominently as warnings. Despite moderate intelligence, white dragons have exceptional memories, remembering every slight and defeat. They hold grudges against creatures that offend them, including silver dragons that share their territories. Although they can speak, white dragons rarely engage in conversation. White dragons are solitary creatures, avoiding other dragons except for mating purposes. Even then, they stay together briefly before returning to isolation. They are territorial and attack other creatures without provocation, considering them either too weak or too powerful to coexist. Intelligent humanoids that demonstrate strength may serve them, including dragon-worshipping kobolds. Powerful creatures can sometimes gain their obedience through displays of physical or magical might. These dragons have a preference for cold treasures, particularly diamonds, but their hoards often contain ivory, whalebone sculptures, furs, and magic items taken from adventurers. Their lairs are filled with loose coins and gems, with larger treasures encased in rime created by their breath. White dragons remember the origin of each item in their hoard and see offers of treasure as an insult. White dragons make their lairs in icy caves and subterranean chambers in remote, sunless locations. They favor high mountain valleys, cliff-face caverns, and labyrinthine ice caves. Their innate magic deepens the cold in their lair's surroundings, often allowing them to detect intruders by changes in the keening wind within their domain. Metallic dragons are a distinct breed among the dragons of Dungeons and Dragons. Unlike their chaotic and malevolent chromatic counterparts, these dragons hold a deep sense of responsibility towards the world. They perceive themselves as a powerful race tasked with preserving and protecting the many races that share their world. In their pursuit of wealth, metallic dragons covet treasure, much like chromatic dragons. However, their drive is not fueled by greed. Instead, they are motivated by noble curiosity. Metallic dragons are avid investigators and collectors, often acquiring unclaimed relics and safeguarding them in their hoards. Their hoards are not just collections of riches, but also repositories of personal items, historical artifacts, and memories. Notably, metallic dragons actively seek to protect other creatures from dangerous magic. This self-imposed duty sometimes leads them to hoard powerful magical items and even evil artifacts, which they hide away to prevent harm. Should the need arise, metallic dragons can be convinced to part with an item from their hoard for the greater good. However, persuading them is no simple task, as they may question another creature's need or right to the item in question. As these dragons age, they acquire the remarkable ability to shapeshift into humanoid and beast forms. Some embrace this skill, immersing themselves in different cultures, while others remain reclusive, guarding their lairs and hoards. Those who venture into humanoid form often find amusement in observing the ways of smaller races, experiencing local culture, and savoring various cuisines. However, some metallic dragons prefer solitude, distancing themselves from civilization to avoid attracting potential enemies. While this keeps them safe, it also results in them being out of touch with current events in the world. Metallic dragons possess prodigious memories, forming opinions of humanoids based on past encounters with related individuals. They can recognize humanoid bloodlines by scent and remember any relatives they've encountered over the years. This can lead to misplaced trust in some cases, assuming that individuals share the same virtuous disposition as their ancestors, or, conversely, harboring resentment for past transgressions against them or their kin. The chief deity of the metallic dragons is Bahamut, known as the Platinum Dragon. Bahamut resides in the seven heavens of Mount Celestia, occasionally adopting the guise of a wise human male in peasant attire, while accompanied by 7 golden canaries, which are, in fact, ancient gold dragons in disguise. Bahamut rarely intervenes in mortal affairs, but makes exceptions to thwart the schemes of Tiamat, the Dragon Queen, and her evil progeny. Some good-aligned clerics and paladins worship Bahamut for his dedication to justice and protection, and as a lesser god, he has the power to grant divine spells to his faithful followers. Gold dragons, the most powerful and regal among the metallic dragons, are stalwart defenders against evil. A gold dragon's appearance is characterized by a wise countenance adorned with flexible spines resembling whiskers. Its horns curve back from its nose and brow, mirroring twin frills along its long neck. With sail-like wings starting at its shoulders and extending to the tip of its tail, a gold dragon possesses a unique rippling motion when flying, akin to swimming through the air. Young gold dragons display scales of dark yellow with metallic flecks, which grow larger as they mature. As they age, their pupils fade until their eyes resemble pools of molten gold. Gold dragons possess versatile palates and can consume nearly anything, but their preferred diet consists of pearls and gems. Fortunately, they don't need vast riches to feel satisfied. While they appreciate gifts of treasure, they do not accept bribes. Known for their wisdom and fairness, gold dragons earn respect among the other metallic dragons. Despite their reputation, they maintain an aloof and serious demeanor, valuing their privacy. They rarely socialize with other dragons beyond their own mates and offspring. Gold dragons, particularly the older ones, possess the ability to assume animal and humanoid forms. They rarely reveal their true form when in disguise. In the guise of a peddler, they might visit a town to gather local gossip, support honest businesses, and provide assistance behind the scenes. In animal form, they may befriend individuals such as lost children, wandering minstrels, or innkeepers, serving as companions for extended periods. Gold dragons are meticulous hoarders, safeguarding their treasures in a well-protected vault within their lairs. The vault is secured with magical wards that make it nearly impossible to pilfer treasures without the dragon's knowledge. Gold dragons establish their lairs in remote and inconspicuous locations where they can live without arousing suspicion or fear. These habitats often include idyllic lakes, mist-shrouded islands, cave complexes concealed behind sparkling waterfalls, or ancient ruins. Silver dragons among the metallic dragons are renowned for their friendly and sociable nature. They gladly offer assistance to good-hearted creatures in need. A silver dragon's appearance is striking, with a shimmering, pure metal-like body. Their faces possess a noble bearing, accentuated by high-set eyes and chin spikes resembling a beard. A spiny frill extends over their head, running down their neck to the tail's tip. When they are wormlings, their scales are blue-gray with silver highlights. As they approach adulthood, their color brightens until their individual scales become barely discernible. In their old age, their pupils fade, leaving them with eyes resembling orbs of mercury. Silver dragons hold strong beliefs about moral living, emphasizing the importance of doing good deeds and causing no undue harm to other sentient beings. They may not actively seek out evil as some other dragons do, but they staunchly oppose creatures committing evil acts or harming the innocent. Unlike many dragons, silver dragons particularly enjoy the company of other silver dragons. However, their true friendships often develop among humanoid races. Many silver dragons spend a considerable amount of time in humanoid form, adopting benign personas such as wise sages or wandering travelers. They often form deep and enduring friendships with mortals. Silver dragons must periodically return to their true forms for mating, raising offspring, managing hordes, and handling personal matters. This can sometimes lead to situations where they find that their humanoid companions have grown old or passed away, resulting in friendships spanning several generations of a single family. Silver dragons show a special fascination with humans, appreciating their drive and zest for life more than the longer-lived elves and dwarves. They befriend humanoids of all races but have a particular affinity for humanity. In terms of their hoarding habits, silver dragons have a penchant for collecting relics of humanoid history. This includes coins from various current and fallen humanoid empires, as well as art objects and exquisite jewelry crafted by diverse races. Bronze dragons are creatures that inhabit coastal regions, sustenance mainly drawn from aquatic plants and fish. They possess the ability to assume the forms of friendly animals to observe other creatures. These dragons have a particular fascination with warfare and willingly join armies if they believe the cause is just. In terms of appearance, bronze dragons are distinctive. They have ribbed and fluted crests that define their head shape, with curving horns extending from the crest and spines on their lower jaw and chin. To facilitate swimming, they possess webbed feet and smooth scales. Bronze dragon wormlings exhibit yellowish-green scales that gradually darken to a rich bronze tone as they age. Their pupils change from distinct shapes to glowing green orbs. Bronze dragons are known to frequent coastal areas where they closely observe ships traveling along the coastlines. They often take on the forms of dolphins or seagulls to inspect ships and their crews more closely. Occasionally, they even board ships in the guise of birds or rats to inspect the cargo, and if they find something of value, they may negotiate with the ship's captain for its acquisition. These dragons have a strong aversion to tyranny and actively oppose it. When conflicts arise near their lairs, bronze dragons carefully evaluate the situation and offer their assistance to the side fighting for justice. Once they commit to a cause, they remain loyal allies. Bronze dragons are known for their well-organized hoards. They collect treasures from sunken ships, along with colorful coral and pearls from the nearby reefs and seabeds. When aiding an army in its fight against tyranny, they might request nominal compensation, which could be in the form of old books on military history or ceremonial items that commemorate the alliance. In some cases, they may lay claim to a specific treasure held by the enemy, believing it would be safer under their protection. Bronze dragons establish their lairs in coastal caves and sometimes salvage and reconstruct wrecked ships within these lairs, using them as treasure vaults or nests for their eggs. Brass dragons are known for their sociable nature, thriving in hot, arid environments while seeking conversation and sunlight. Their distinctive features include a protective plate on their forehead, chin spikes, a frill along their neck, and wings extending down their tail. Young brass dragons have dull, mottled brown scales, which gradually become shinier and take on a warm, burnished hue as they age. Their wings and frills develop a mottled green tint near the edges over time, and their pupils fade, giving their eyes a resemblance to molten metal orbs. These dragons are remarkably talkative, engaging in discussions with a wide array of creatures over their long lifespans. They eagerly share knowledge in exchange for treasures. If someone tries to avoid conversation and leave, a brass dragon will pursue them. Escape attempts may lead to the dragon using sleep gas to incapacitate the individual, and upon waking they might find themselves pinned down or buried in sand as the dragon seeks to satisfy its urge for conversation. While trusting of those who enjoy talking, brass dragons are astute enough to detect manipulation and may respond playfully if they sense mutual trickery. They view such encounters as a game. Brass dragons treasure items that enhance their ability to converse with intriguing personalities. They highly value possessions like intelligent telepathic weapons or magic lamps containing bound djinni spirits. To protect their hoards, brass dragons hide them under layers of sand or in secluded places, far from their primary lairs. They have an excellent memory for the locations of their treasures and don't rely on maps. Travelers and adventurers should exercise caution when coming across chests in oases or treasure caches in half-buried desert ruins, as these could be part of a brass dragon's hoard. In terms of their lairs, brass dragons typically choose desert locations such as ruins, canyons, or cave networks. These lairs are designed to allow sunlight to filter through, often featuring openings in the ceilings. Copper dragons are known for their playful and mischievous nature. They inhabit hills and rocky uplands and have a reputation as pranksters, joke-tellers, and riddlers. Despite their sociable and good-natured demeanor, they have a strong inclination toward coveting and hoarding, making them potentially dangerous when their treasures are threatened. Distinctively, a copper dragon possesses brow plates extending over its eyes, along with long, segmented horns. Backswept cheek ridges and jaw frills contribute to their contemplative appearance. When born, their scales have a ruddy brown hue with a metallic tint. As they age, their scales transition to a more coppery color, later adopting a greenish tint. The pupils of copper dragons fade with age, with the oldest individuals having glowing turquoise eyes. Copper dragons appreciate humor and wit, and enjoy jokes, funny stories, and riddles. They become irritated with creatures who don't appreciate their humor or respond positively to their pranks. These dragons have a particular fondness for bards and might set aside a part of their lair for a bard who can entertain them with tales, riddles, and music. To a copper dragon, such companionship is a cherished treasure. When it comes to accumulating their hoard, copper dragons have a preference for treasures originating from the earth, with metals and precious stones being their favorites. They are cautious about revealing their possessions and might not admit to having a sought-after item if they know others are looking for it. Instead, they might send treasure hunters on wild goose chases while secretly observing the proceedings for their own amusement. Copper dragons tend to make their lairs in dry uplands and hilltops, often within narrow caves. These lairs often feature false walls concealing secret antechambers where the dragon keeps valuable ores, art objects, and other curiosities collected throughout their lives. Worthless items are sometimes displayed openly in caves to entice treasure seekers and divert their attention from where the true treasures are hidden. Dragon turtles are formidable ocean-dwelling creatures, rivaling the size and ferocity of their land-dwelling dragonkin. They strike with deadly jaws, scalding breath, and a powerful, crushing tail. A dragon turtle's rough shell shares the dark green hue of the deep ocean where it resides. Silver highlights along the shell resemble the play of light on open water. When a dragon turtle surfaces, it can sometimes be mistaken for the reflection of the sun or moon on the waves. Similar to true dragons, dragon turtles collect treasure. They begin by sinking ships and then sift through the wreckage for coins and precious items. To transport their loot, they swallow it and later regurgitate it in their lairs. These lairs are typically found in hidden caves within coral reefs, beneath the seafloor, or along rugged coastal stretches. If an appealing cave is already inhabited, a dragon turtle may attack the current residents to claim it. Dragon turtles can be enticed with bribes, making them mercenary monsters. Pirates traversing the seas inhabited by these creatures often offer treasure in exchange for safe passage. Clever Sahuagin sometimes form alliances with dragon turtles, using treasure as bait to persuade them to unleash their scalding breath weapons during Sahuagin raids on ships and coastal settlements. Some dragon turtles find their way through sunken planar rifts to the elemental plane of water. In this realm, they often serve Marids who equip them with magnificent coral thrones and ride them as formidable mounts. Shadow dragons are a unique breed of true dragons with origins intertwined with the ominous realm known as the Shadowfell. These dragons can be either born within the Shadowfell or undergo a gradual transformation by dwelling within its bleak and dismal landscape. Some shadow dragons grow fond of the desolation of the Shadowfell, while others harbor a desire to return to the material plane, often with the intent of spreading darkness and evil from the plane of shadow. Portals to the Shadowfell materialize in desolate and gloomy locations, sometimes even deep within subterranean caverns. Dragons that make their lairs in such places might inadvertently stumble upon these portals, finding themselves transported to an entirely new realm. In some cases, ancient dragons that slumber for extended periods might awaken to discover that a portal has formed without their knowledge, whisking them away to the Shadowfell as they dream. The transformation into a shadow dragon occurs gradually over several years. During this time, a dragon's once vibrant scales lose their luster, fading to a charcoal hue. Their leathery wings become translucent, and their eyes pale into pools of opalescent gray. Bright light becomes intolerable to shadow dragons, and they are noticeably weaker in such conditions compared to the comfort of darkness. In shadowy surroundings, these dragons can even become spectral shadows of their former selves. Shadow dragons are drawn to the magical essence of the Shadowfell, as if the very realm craves the might and majesty of these great reptilian creatures. However, the prolonged exposure to the Shadowfell exudes a disheartening influence on its inhabitants. As time passes, creatures dwelling within this realm increasingly accept its melancholic nature. A shadow dragon becomes aware of the transformation being wrought upon it, yet remains powerless to prevent it. Interestingly, even a return to the material plane cannot undo the transformation of a shadow dragon. Some of these creatures attempt to lure other beings from the mortal realm into the Shadowfell, if only to provide temporary companionship before eventually consuming them. Others are content to leave the Shadowfell behind, recognizing that treasure and power are more readily obtained within the material plane. A Faerie Dragon is a diminutive dragon resembling a cat in size, adorned with delicate butterfly wings. Its appearance is characterized by a perpetual sharp-toothed grin, and it often expresses its joy through the twitching of its tail, which quickly fades if it encounters aggression. These mischievous creatures are invisible tricksters, and their presence is often signaled by stifled giggles. Faerie dragons enjoy watching their unsuspecting victims contend with their pranks, only revealing themselves when their playful antics are satisfied. Despite their penchant for pranks, Faerie dragons possess sharp minds and a fondness for both treasure and good company. They also have a mischievous sense of humor. Travelers can engage with a Faerie dragon's draconic nature by offering it treasure in the form of sweets, baked goods, or trinkets in exchange for information or safe passage through their territory. One notable characteristic of Faerie dragons is the changing color of their scales as they age. They progress through the entire spectrum of rainbow colors as they mature. In addition to their playful nature, Faerie dragons possess innate spellcasting abilities that evolve as they grow older, allowing them to learn new spells over time. The Fomorians, among the most hideous and wicked of all giant kind, bear the physical scars of their malevolent hearts. These creatures exhibit deformed bodies, grotesque features, and warty, misshapen heads. Some have facial features scattered randomly across their repulsive visages, while others possess limbs of varying sizes and shapes. Their miserable appearances rarely evoke sympathy, as their vile demeanor reflects the darkness within. Long ago, the Fomorians were a race of great beauty, renowned for their brilliant minds and unparalleled magical prowess. However, their unquenchable thirst for power and magic led them down a dark path. Seeking to conquer the Feywild and enslave its inhabitants to claim their magic, the Fomorians waged war against the Fey. In response, a curse was cast upon them, distorting their once handsome forms into the monstrous beings they are today. Driven by their malevolence, the Fomorians retreated underground to the depths of the Underdark, nursing their hatred and plotting vengeance against the Fey. In this subterranean realm, they dwell in eerie, beautiful caverns, rarely venturing to the surface. Their lairs provide them with ample resources, including water, fish, mushroom forests, and slaves whose labor sustains them. When these slaves grow unable to work, they meet a gruesome fate, becoming sustenance for their cruel masters. Wickedness and depravity reign supreme in Fomorian society, where the strongest and most ruthless giants rule. Their territories are marked with the remains of their foes, and the walls of their caverns often bear gruesome displays of blood and body parts. Despite their deformities, Fomorians possess keen senses that make them difficult to surprise or ambush. Their evil and greed persist, driving them to form alliances when it serves their interests. But they are inherently disloyal, readily betraying their allies. One of their most sinister abilities is the Evil Eye. This power allows Fomorians to pass on their curse to others, twisting and deforming the victims. Those cursed by a Fomorian's evil eye gain a glimpse into the pain and malice that have consumed this malevolent race, serving as a testament to the depths of their wickedness. Driders are the result of a transformation that occurs when a Drow, particularly one with great potential, faces a test of faith and strength summoned by Lolth, the Spider Queen. Those who pass the test ascend in Lolth's favor, while those who fail undergo a disturbing change, becoming Driders. It is essential to note that only Drow individuals can be turned into Driders, and the power to perform this transformation lies solely with Lolth. Once Drow are transformed into Driders, they return to the material plane as grotesque and debased creatures. Consumed by madness, they venture into the depths of the Underdark, becoming hermits or leading packs of giant spiders. On rare occasions, a Drider may reappear on the outskirts of Drow society, despite its cursed state. This usually happens when there is an unfulfilled vow or vendetta from its previous life. Drow hold Driders in fear and contempt, viewing them as even lower than slaves. However, they tolerate their presence as living reminders of Lolth's will and as a stark illustration of the fate that awaits those who fail to meet the Spider Queen's expectations. Dryads are fey creatures bound to trees by powerful fey spirits. This binding occurs as punishment or when the fey spirit falls in love with a mortal forbidden by the laws of their kind. A Dryad can leave her tree to travel the surrounding lands, but her tree remains her home and anchors her to the world. As long as the tree remains healthy and unharmed, the Dryad retains her youthful and alluring appearance. However, if harm befalls the tree, she suffers, and if the tree is ever destroyed, the Dryad descends into madness. These fey beings are reclusive and act as guardians of their woodland domains. They are often shy and tend to observe intruders from the safety of the trees. If a Dryad finds a stranger particularly captivating, she may investigate further and even attempt to enchant or charm them. Dryads work in harmony with other sylvan creatures to protect their forests. This includes unicorns, trents, satyrs, and druids who share their deep devotion to the woods they call home. Dryads possess woodland magic, allowing them to communicate with plants and animals. They have the unique ability to teleport from one tree to another, using this skill to lure intruders away from their groves. When cornered, Dryads can employ their enchanting powers to beguile humanoids and turn potential foes into allies. Additionally, they are knowledgeable in a few useful spells that assist them in safeguarding their forest domains. The Duergar, often referred to as Grey Dwarves, inhabit magnificent cities deep within the perilous Underdark. They employ ancient dwarven knowledge and a multitude of enslaved creatures to expand their subterranean dominions. Most Duergar are bald and possess ashen gray skin. They typically don drab clothing, carefully selected to blend with the stone surroundings, and wear simple and utilitarian jewelry that reflects their austere and pragmatic nature. These gray dwarves were once dwarves themselves before their relentless pursuit of wealth and incessant digging led them into contact with the Mind Flayers, the enigmatic and mind-controlling creatures of the Underdark. For generations, the dwarves were held captive by the Illithids, only gaining their freedom with the aid of the malevolent god Laduger. Slavery left an indelible mark on their spirits, transforming them into a dour, pessimistic, and untrusting race. Their lives are filled with ceaseless labor and discontent, devoid of happiness or pride. Despite their remarkable craftsmanship and achievements, the Duergar lack the warmth and artistry of their dwarven kin. The Duergar wage war against their dwarven relatives and all other subterranean races. They form alliances when it serves their interests, but do not hesitate to break those alliances when they no longer see any advantage in maintaining them. They view slaves as a valuable resource, toiling away in the dark depths of the Underdark, and consider them as little more than free labor or a crude form of currency. Duergar inherit the dwarves' robust physical constitution, fortified by an extraordinary mental resilience forged during their captivity under the Illithids. Their minds are formidable bastions, capable of resisting charms, illusions, and other spells. Born in the darkness of the Underdark, the Duergar have absorbed its unique magical energies over generations of confinement. They can momentarily increase their size and strength, transforming into formidable ogre-sized warriors. When facing formidable foes or sneaking past potential threats, they can easily become invisible, vanishing into the shadows. However, their eons in the lightless abyss have rendered them photosensitive. Duergar possess exceptional dark vision, enabling them to see twice as far as other dwarves in the pitch-black subterranean world. Yet, they pay a price for this ability, as they are greatly impaired by exposure to sunlight. Asmodeus, the Lord of the Nine Hells, occasionally disguises himself as a Duergar deity to manipulate the Grey Dwarves further. He offers divine guidance, vengeance against their adversaries, and pushes them towards greater acts of tyranny, all while concealing his true identity. Elementals are manifestations of the fundamental elements that shape the universe: air, earth, fire, and water. On their home planes, they exist as formless energy, but they can be summoned and given shape to perform various tasks by spellcasters and powerful beings. In their native elemental form, these beings possess a dim consciousness and have no desires beyond flowing through their elemental plane. They lack society, culture, or a sense of self. The summoning of elementals to the material plane can be achieved through specific spells and magical items. These summoned elementals typically resent being taken from their native planes and forced into service, requiring a firm hand to control them. Powerful magic can bind elemental spirits into specific physical forms, determining their use and function. For example, invisible stalkers are air elementals shaped into a specific form, just as water elementals can be transformed into water weirds. The strength of the magic and materials used in binding determines the elemental's functionality. Golems, for instance, are elemental spirits bound to physical forms, but the binding process is less effective with weaker materials like flesh and clay. Durable materials such as stone and iron require stronger magic to secure the elemental spirit. Air elementals are swirling clouds of whirling air that vaguely resemble a face. They enjoy racing across the ground, picking up debris as they go. Air elementals can also take to the skies and attack from above, transforming into screaming cyclones that batter and fling away their foes. Earth elementals appear as colossal walking hills with club-like stone arms. Their bodies consist of dirt, stone, and sometimes even precious minerals. They can move through rock and earth as if it were liquid, making them formidable adversaries for creatures on solid ground. Fire elementals are humanoid shapes within a roiling mass of flame. They leave destruction in their wake, igniting everything around them. Only water can stop their fiery rampage, causing them to shrink back, hissing and smoking in pain. Water elementals resemble cresting waves that can traverse the land and become nearly invisible when immersed in a larger body of water. They engulf creatures in their path, filling their mouths and lungs as they smother flames and extinguish all in their vicinity. Elves, a race of ancient beings, have a complex history that includes a faction known as the Drow. Long ago, a division among the elves led to a conflict between those of good nature and those with cruel tendencies. This internal war ended with the benevolent elves banishing their malevolent counterparts into the subterranean depths. These exiled elves became the Drow and found leadership in the deity Lolth, the Spider Queen who dwells in the abyss. Drow society is marked by unwavering devotion to Lolth. They follow her commands without question and believe themselves destined to rule the darkness. Although they plot against their surface-dwelling kin, they no longer see themselves as exiles and are content in their subterranean realm. The Drow have evolved to thrive underground with the ability to see in the dark. However, they are highly sensitive to sunlight, which they cannot endure. When slaves become scarce, Drow send raiding parties to the surface under the cover of darkness to capture humanoids. Drow cities are magnificent, built in vast underground caverns. They possess superb craftsmanship and artistic structures. These cities are fortified, and giant spiders are raised to protect them. The Drow often decorate their cities with intricate webbing, which also serves as a trap for flying intruders. Drow magic has adapted to the subterranean environment. They use magic for city construction, enhancing weapons, creating magical items, and summoning demons from the abyss. Drow spellcasters are known for their arrogance and willingness to employ magic for nefarious purposes. Drow weaponry is made of adamantine, a dark and extremely hard metal. Their weapons and armor feature spider-themed designs and are sometimes enchanted to increase their effectiveness. However, their magical properties fade when exposed to sunlight. Drow politics are filled with intrigue and alliances that are often short-lived. The society is divided into noble houses, each ruled by a matron who seeks to elevate her house's power and prestige. High-ranking members are blood relatives, while lower ranks consist of Drow from weaker families who have pledged allegiance. At the lowest rung are house slaves, including Drow of low birth and occasional captives. Lolth's priestesses dictate the rules of Drow society, ensuring her commands are carried out. Male Drow are subservient to females, and while they can hold various roles, they cannot become priests or house rulers. Poison is prevalent in Drow society, derived from spider venom and underdark flora. Drow mages create potent toxins that leave enemies unconscious, which are then used to coat their weapons and crossbow bolts. The Drow often employ poison in their interrogation and torture practices. Drow elite warriors defend their houses and excel at fighting dwarves, gnomes, elves, and other Drow. They frequently raid surface settlements under the cover of darkness. Drow mages, usually male Drow, pursue the study of magic as they lack the physical prowess of warriors. Drow priestesses of Lolth, typically female Drow with noble blood, are trained from birth to execute the will of the Spider Queen. They wield significant power and influence within Drow society, with matron mothers ruling as the most powerful of Lolth's priestesses, though they must balance their devotion to Lolth with their familial obligations.